Document. Part 5. The Coalition fleet assembled slowly, piecing together ships and crews from across the galaxy. It was a patchwork effort, with each species contributing what they could. Humans provided sleek, fast-moving vessels equipped with advanced sensors, while the Quarrens offered their massive, heavily armored cruisers designed for endurance. The Zarnokians, though initially reluctant, eventually joined by sending agile fighters capable of darting through asteroid fields and narrow channels. Even smaller colonies pitched in, offering outdated but functional ships that had been retrofitted for combat. Benjamin and Olivia watched as the fleet gathered near the edge of human-controlled space, where pirate activity had been most intense. From their position aboard a command ship, they observed the diverse array of vessels floating in formation. The sight was both inspiring and sobering, a symbol of unity, but also a reminder of the dangers lurking ahead. "Do you think this will work?" Olivia asked, leaning against the railing of the observation deck. Her voice carried a hint of doubt despite her outward confidence. "It has to," Benjamin replied, his eyes fixed on the fleet. "If we can't stop these raids, the outer colonies will keep pulling away. And if they do, the whole council system might collapse." Olivia nodded, though she didn't look entirely convinced. She had seen too many plans fall apart under pressure to take anything for granted. Still, there was no turning back now. The Coalition fleet was ready to launch its first mission, a coordinated strike on a suspected pirate stronghold hidden deep within an uncharted asteroid belt. As the ships moved into position, Benjamin addressed the crew over the intercom. "This isn't just about stopping pirates," he said, his tone steady and clear. "It's about showing every colony, every species, that we're stronger together than we are apart. Let's make them proud." The fleet surged forward, engines glowing brightly against the dark expanse of space. Their target was a cluster of asteroids riddled with caves and tunnels, perfect hiding spots for raiders. Intelligence reports suggested that the pirates operating here were not ordinary criminals. They were well organized, highly skilled, and possibly linked to rogue elements within the Voker military. When the fleet arrived, the battle began almost immediately. Pirate ships emerged from the shadows, launching surprise attacks before retreating into the maze-like terrain. The Coalition forces responded with precision, using their combined strengths to counter the ambushes. Human ships acted as scouts, identifying enemy positions and relaying coordinates to the larger Quarren cruisers. Zarnokian fighters zipped through tight spaces, flushing out hidden enemies and forcing them into open confrontations. Despite the initial chaos, the Coalition held its ground, but the pirates fought fiercely, employing tactics that hinted at professional training. Explosions lit up the darkness as ships collided, and laser fire streaked across the void. Inside the command ship, Olivia monitored the situation closely, her fingers flying over a control panel as she coordinated responses. "We're taking heavy fire near Sector 7, one officer reported. "Request reinforcements. Send." In the Quarren cruiser Dawnbreaker, Olivia ordered without hesitation, "And tell the Zarnokians to flank from above. We need to cut off their escape routes." Her commands were relayed quickly, and within minutes, the tide began to turn. The Dawnbreaker unleashed a barrage of missiles, obliterating several pirate vessels in quick succession. Meanwhile, the Zarnokian fighters circled around, trapping the remaining raiders between two overwhelming forces. By the time the dust settled, the Coalition fleet had secured the area. Dozens of pirate ships lay destroyed or disabled, their crews either captured or scattered. Teams boarded the largest asteroid base, discovering evidence that confirmed the worst suspicions. The pirates were indeed connected to rogue Voker. Documents and communications found aboard. The base revealed detailed plans for destabilizing trade routes and isolating key colonies. Back on Luminaris, news of the victory spread quickly. The Galaxy Council convened to discuss the findings, with Benjamin and Olivia presenting the evidence to a packed chamber. This proves beyond any doubt that the Vokers are still a threat, Benjamin declared, his voice firm. Even after Crix's removal, rogue factions continue to undermine stability. If we don't address this now, it will only get worse. Xylora listened intently, her expression grave. What do you propose? She asked. We need to expand the coalition fleet, Benjamin answered. Not just to fight pirates, but to protect vulnerable colonies and ensure safe passage for all trade routes. This isn't just humanity's responsibility, it's everyone's. Several delegates murmured in agreement, though others remained hesitant. A representative from the Soren species, a bird-like alien named Tyla, raised a concern. How can we trust humans to lead such an effort? Your actions have already caused so much disruption. Olivia stepped forward, meeting Tyla's gaze directly. We're not asking for leadership, she said calmly. We're asking for cooperation. Humanity made mistakes, yes, but we've also shown that we're willing to learn and adapt. Together, we can build something stronger than any one species alone. Tyla considered her words before nodding reluctantly. Very well, she said, but accountability must remain a priority. Any misuse of power will not be tolerated. With cautious approval from the Council, plans for expanding the coalition fleet moved forward. Ships and resources poured in from across the galaxy, strengthening the fleet's capabilities. For the first time in months, there was a sense of momentum, a shared purpose driving disparate groups toward a common goal. Back on Earth, however, tensions simmered beneath the surface. While the public celebrated the coalition's success, some factions within the government grew increasingly restless. General Ryan Mitchell, head of Earth's military forces, argued that reliance on alliances left humanity exposed. We can't depend on other species to defend us, he told President Bennett during a private briefing. If the coalition fails, we'll be left holding the bag. Bennett listened patiently, but stood firm. Our strength lies in our ability to work with others, she countered. Isolationism won't solve anything. If we want peace, we have to invest in partnerships, not walls. Mitchell scowled, but said nothing further. He knew better than to challenge the president openly, but his frustration lingered. Behind closed doors, he began quietly rallying support for a more aggressive approach, warning allies that humanity needed to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Meanwhile, Benjamin and Olivia continued their efforts to rebuild trust among the colony's envoys sent to distant outposts, returned with mixed results. Some colonies welcomed the gesture, agreeing to rejoin council-led initiatives in exchange for promised protections. Others remained defiant, accusing the council of favoritism and demanding greater autonomy. One such colony was New Horizon, a remote settlement located near the edge of explored space. Its leader, a fiery woman named Elena Marks, refused to cooperate with the coalition. You abandoned us when the pirates attacked, she told Benjamin during a tense video call. Why should we trust you now? Benjamin hesitated, searching for the right words. We know we let you down, he admitted. That's why we're here to make things right. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Elena's expression softened slightly, but her resolve didn't waver. Fine, she said finally, but understand this. If you fail again, we'll find our own way, with or without your help. The conversation ended on an uncertain note, leaving Benjamin and Olivia to ponder the challenges ahead. Winning back the trust of colonies like New Horizon would require patience, persistence, and tangible results. Promises alone wouldn't be enough. As days turned into weeks, the coalition fleet launched additional missions, targeting pirate strongholds and securing critical trade routes. Each victory bolstered morale, but the threat of rebellion loomed large. Smaller colonies, emboldened by the chaos, continued to push back against council authority. Some even formed loose alliances, pledging mutual defense against perceived threats. On Luminaris, Xylora called for another emergency summit to address the growing unrest. We cannot afford to ignore this, she warned the chamber. If we lose the colonies, we lose the foundation of our unity. Benjamin and Olivia proposed a bold solution, granting colonies greater representation within the council. They need a voice, Olivia argued, a seat at the table where decisions are made. Otherwise they'll feel ignored and act accordingly. The idea sparked heated debate, with some delegates opposing any changes to the council's structure. This is a slippery slope, Tarek, the Quarren representative, cautioned. Where does it end? Do we give every minor settlement equal standing? It's not about equality, Benjamin clarified. It's about inclusion. If we want peace, we have to include those who feel excluded. After hours of discussion, a compromise was reached. Colonies would be allowed to send observers to council sessions, giving them a platform to express concerns and contribute ideas. While not a perfect solution, it was a step in the right direction, one that many hoped would ease tensions. Document, part, for the days following Crix's removal from the Galaxy Council were a whirlwind of activity. News of his deceit spread rapidly, sparking reactions across the galaxy. Some species celebrated the exposure of corruption, while others remained skeptical about humanity's role in uncovering it. The Voker Syndicate, now leaderless and disgraced, retreated into isolation, cutting off communication with most of the galaxy. Back on Earth, however, the response was mixed. President Laura Bennett addressed the public in a live broadcast, standing behind a podium flanked by flags. Her expression was calm but serious as she spoke. Today marks a turning point for humanity and our place among the stars, she began. The evidence presented to the Galaxy Council has revealed the truth about the Vokers' manipulation. This is not just a victory for USIT, it's a victory for fairness and transparency. Her words drew applause from some corners of the audience, but protests erupted in major cities around the globe. Crowds gathered outside government buildings, holding signs that read "No More Secrets" and "Earth First." Some demonstrators supported Benjamin and Olivia's actions, praising them for standing up to corruption. Others accused the delegation of risking humanity's safety by walking away from negotiations earlier. The division among the people reflected the uncertainty hanging over the galaxy. Back on Luminaris, Benjamin and Olivia worked tirelessly to rebuild trust with the other delegates. They attended meetings, answered questions, and listened to concerns from species who felt caught in the middle of the conflict. Despite their efforts, skepticism lingered. Many wondered if humanity's intentions were truly noble or if they simply sought revenge against the Vokers. One evening, after a long day of discussions, Benjamin sat alone on a balcony, overlooking the crystalline landscape of The shimmering structures glowed softly under the light of 3 moons, casting reflections that danced across the horizon. He sipped a cup of tea, lost in thought. Olivia joined him moments later, carrying 2 plates of food. "You look like you could use this," she said, handing him one of the plates. "It's not much, but it's better than nothing." Benjamin smiled faintly. "Thanks. I didn't realize how hungry I was until now." They ate in silence for a while, enjoying the quiet moment together. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "You've been pushing yourself pretty hard these past few days." "I'm fine," Benjamin replied, though his tone suggested otherwise. "It's just, everything feels so fragile right now. We exposed Crix, but what happens next? Are we really any closer to solving the bigger problems?" Olivia nodded, understanding his frustration. "It's going to take time," she admitted. "Trust doesn't come back overnight, especially after something like this. But we're laying the groundwork. That's what matters." Benjamin sighed, staring out at the glowing horizon. "I keep thinking about Lyra," he said quietly. "She gave her life to make sure the truth came out." What good does it do if we can't keep moving forward? We honor her sacrifice by doing exactly that, Olivia said firmly. By staying committed to finding solutions even when it's hard, even when it feels like no one's listening. Her words seemed to lift some of the weight from Benjamin's shoulders. He set his plate aside and stood up, stretching his arms. You're right, he said. We've got work to do. The next morning, the Galaxy Council reconvened to discuss the future of interstellar relations. Without Crix's influence, the atmosphere in the chamber felt lighter, though tension still simmered beneath the surface. Xylora opened the session with a reminder of their shared goals. The events of recent days have shown us how fragile our unity can be, she said. But they have also reminded us of the importance of honesty and cooperation. Let us move forward with renewed purpose. Benjamin took the floor first, addressing the delegates with a tone of cautious optimism. Humanity remains committed to working with all of you to build a better future, he began. We understand that trust must be earned, and we are ready to take whatever steps are necessary to achieve that. His speech was met with polite applause, though some delegates exchanged wary glances. A representative from the Quarren species, a tall, four-armed alien named Tarek, raised a question. What guarantees do we have that humanity will act in good faith? He asked. Your departure from the talks earlier left many of us concerned. Olivia stepped forward to answer. We acknowledge that walking away was a mistake, she admitted. It created uncertainty and damaged relationships. But we acted out of frustration, not malice. Now, we're asking for another chance to prove that we can be reliable partners. Tarek considered her words before nodding slowly. Fair enough, he said. But actions speak louder than words. We'll be watching closely. As the session continued, proposals for new trade agreements and resource-sharing programs dominated the discussion. Humanity offered to share advanced medical technology with smaller colonies struggling to recover from pirate attacks. In return, they requested access to rare minerals found only in certain regions controlled by the Zarnokians. The negotiations were slow and often heated, but progress was being made. Meanwhile, reports of increased pirate activity continued to trickle in. The task force investigating the raids had uncovered evidence linking several high-profile attacks to rogue factions within the Voker military. It seemed clear that Crix's influence extended beyond the council chamber, reaching into the shadows where dangerous forces operated unchecked. Xylora called for an emergency summit to address the growing threat, urging all species to contribute resources toward combating piracy. At the summit, Benjamin proposed forming a coalition fleet, a joint effort between multiple species to patrol trade routes and protect vulnerable colonies. This isn't just a human problem or a Voker problem, he argued. It affects everyone. Working together is the only way to stop it. The idea gained traction quickly, with many delegates agreeing to participate. Even the Zarnokians, typically hesitant to involve themselves in galactic affairs, pledged ships and personnel to the cause. For the first time in weeks, there was a sense of unity in the chamber, a fragile but hopeful beginning. Back on Earth, President Bennett faced mounting pressure from both sides of the political spectrum. Military leaders like General Ryan Mitchell pushed for aggressive measures to secure humanity's interests, arguing that reliance on alliances left Earth vulnerable. Civilian advisors, on the other hand, urged restraint, warning that escalating tensions could undo the progress achieved at the Council. Bennett navigated the debate carefully, balancing calls for action with the need for diplomacy. She authorized limited military support for the coalition fleet, but emphasized that humanity's primary focus would remain on peaceful solutions. War is always the last resort, she told her cabinet during a private meeting. Our strength lies in our ability to adapt and cooperate, not in brute force. Despite these assurances, rumors of rebellion began to circulate in distant corners of the galaxy. Smaller colonies, emboldened by the chaos caused by the pirate attacks, started questioning the authority of larger powers, like the Vokers, and even humanity. Some declared independence, refusing to participate in council-led initiatives. Others formed loose alliances, pledging mutual defense against perceived threats. On Luminaris, Benjamin and Olivia monitored these developments with growing concern. They knew that instability in the outer colonies could undermine the fragile peace they were trying to build. If we don't address this soon, it could spiral out of control, Olivia warned during a strategy meeting with their team. Benjamin agreed, pacing the room as he thought aloud. Maybe we should send envoys to those colonies, show them that we're willing to listen to their concerns. If we can bring them back into the fold without resorting to force, it might prevent further division. The plan was risky, but it offered a chance to demonstrate humanity's commitment to inclusion. With Solera's blessing, Benjamin and Olivia selected a small group of diplomats to travel to key colonies and open lines of communication. Their mission was simple: listen, learn, and find common ground. As the envoys departed, Benjamin and Olivia stayed behind to continue their work at the council. They knew the road ahead would be long and difficult, but they also believed that every step forward mattered. Each agreement reached, each alliance strengthened, brought them closer to a future where cooperation outweighed conflict. Late one night, as the council chamber emptied and the lights dimmed, Olivia paused to look out at the glowing cityscape of Lumina. The sight filled her with a mix of hope and determination. "We've come a long way," she murmured to herself. "But we're not done yet." Behind her, Benjamin approached, his hands in his pockets. "No," he said softly, "not by a long shot, but we'll get there one step at a time." Together, they stood in silence, gazing at the stars above. The challenges ahead were daunting, but for the first time in a long while, they felt confident in their ability to face them. Whatever the future held, they were ready to meet it head-on. Document Part 3. The days following the decision to form a joint investigation into the pirate attacks were filled with tension and uncertainty. While the task force worked tirelessly to gather evidence, Benjamin and Olivia found themselves struggling to maintain humanity's position within the Galaxy Council. The other delegates remained divided, some supportive of their efforts, while others openly questioned their motives. Crix, the Voker ambassador, continued to sow doubt wherever he could, subtly implying that humanity's involvement in the investigation was nothing more than a distraction from their earlier failures. Inside the human delegation's quarters, Benjamin leaned over a table covered with maps and reports. His brow furrowed as he studied the data collected by the task force so far. "There's something off about these attack patterns," he muttered, pointing at a cluster of red dots, marking recent raids. "They're too precise, too calculated. Pirates usually hit random targets, but this looks like it's part of a larger plan." Olivia nodded, her arms crossed as she stood beside him. "It's almost like someone is using the pirates to push certain colonies toward desperation," she said thoughtfully. "If those colonies feel abandoned or threatened enough, they might turn against us or, worse, align with the Vokers." Benjamin straightened up, his expression grim. "That's exactly what Crix wants. He's trying to isolate us, both politically and militarily. If we can't prove his involvement, he'll keep getting away with it." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. One of their aides entered, holding a small device in his hand. "We just received an encrypted message," he said, handing it to Olivia. "It's marked urgent." Olivia took the device and activated it. A holographic image flickered to life, showing a shadowy figure cloaked in darkness. The voice that followed was distorted, but unmistakably female. "This is Lyra," the figure began. "I have information you need to hear. Meet me at Station Delta Nine in 3 hours if you want answers." Benjamin frowned. "Who's Lyra?" he asked. "Don't know," Olivia admitted, her eyes narrowing as she replayed the message. "But whoever she is, she sounds serious and desperate." After a brief discussion, they decided to take the risk. leaving behind most of their security team to avoid drawing attention. Benjamin and Olivia boarded a small shuttle bound for Station Deltanine, a remote outpost orbiting Jupiter. The station was known as a neutral zone, often used for secret meetings and black market deals. As their shuttle approached, the massive structure came into view. Labyrinth of metal corridors and blinking lights suspended in the vastness of space. Once aboard, they made their way to the designated meeting point, a dimly lit cafe tucked away in one of the station's quieter sections. Lyra was already there, seated at a corner table with her hood pulled low over her face. She gestured for them to sit, her movements quick and nervous. "You're taking a big risk coming here," she whispered, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. "But I didn't know who else to trust." "Start talking," Olivia said firmly. "Who are you, and why did you contact us?" Lyra hesitated before pulling back her hood, revealing pale skin and sharp features. Her eyes darted between Benjamin and Olivia as if weighing whether they could be trusted. "I'm a scientist from the Voker homeworld," she explained. "I've been working on classified projects for years, including some unethical experiments. Recently, I discovered evidence that Crix has been manipulating the Council not just through intimidation, but by falsifying data to paint humanity as greedy and uncooperative." Benjamin leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "What kind of data?" Lyra reached into a satchel at her side and pulled out a small data chip. "Everything you need is here," she said, sliding it across the table. "Records of altered trade figures, forged communications, even plans for covert operations designed to destabilize your allies. It's all there." Olivia picked up the chip, her fingers trembling slightly. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "If Crix finds out, he'll kill me," Lyra interrupted bluntly. "But I can't stand by and watch him destroy everything for his own gain. Someone has to stop him." Before they could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed overhead as panicked voices echoed through the corridors. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. "They've found us," she whispered. "Crix must have tracked my signal." Without hesitation, Benjamin grabbed Olivia's arm. "We need to get out of here now." Lyra shook her head. "You go. I'll hold them off." She pulled a small device from her pocket and pressed a button, triggering a series of explosions nearby. The blasts sent shockwaves rippling through the station, creating chaos and confusion. "No," Olivia protested, reaching for Lyra. "You'll die." "It's the only way," Lyra insisted, shoving the data chip into Olivia's hand. "Make sure this gets to the Council. Expose him." With tears in her eyes, Olivia reluctantly followed Benjamin as they sprinted toward the nearest exit. Behind them, Lyra disappeared into the smoke and flames, her sacrifice ensuring their escape. Back on Luminaris, Olivia and Benjamin returned to the human delegation's quarters, shaken but determined. They uploaded the data chip's contents onto a secure system and began reviewing the evidence. What they found was staggering proof of Crix's deception on a scale they hadn't imagined. Falsified trade agreements, fabricated accusations, and detailed plans for undermining humanity's influence within the Council. It was all there, undeniable and irrefutable. "This changes everything," Benjamin said, his voice tinged with awe. "If we present this to the Council, Crix won't have a leg to stand on. But timing is critical," Olivia added. "We need to choose the right moment to reveal it. Too soon, and it might look like we're desperate. Too late, and Crix could twist the narrative again." They spent the next several hours preparing their case, carefully crafting a presentation that would leave no room for doubt. When they finally felt ready, they requested an emergency session with the Galaxy Council. Xylora agreed, though she seemed wary about the sudden urgency. The council chamber buzzed with anticipation as Benjamin and Olivia took their places at the center of the floor. Delegates exchanged curious glances, unsure what to expect. Crix sat confidently in his seat, smirking as if he already knew the outcome. Olivia stepped forward, her expression calm but resolute. "We come before you today not to argue or accuse, but to present the truth," she began. "Over the past weeks, we've uncovered evidence of manipulation and deceit within these negotiations. Evidence that implicates one of our own, the Voker Syndicate, led by Ambassador Crix." Gasps rippled through the chamber as Olivia activated a holographic display, projecting the damning evidence for all to see. Trade figures flipped between genuine and altered versions, exposing discrepancies that painted humanity in a negative light. Fabricated messages revealed Crix's attempts to sway opinions against Earth. The room fell silent as the weight of the revelations sank in. Crix leaped to his feet, his glowing red eyes blazing with fury. "This is outrageous," he roared. "These accusations are lies, fabricated by humanity to deflect blame for their own failures." Xylora raised a hand, silencing him. Her gaze shifted to Olivia. "Do you have proof that this evidence is authentic?" she asked. "Yes," Olivia replied, her voice steady. "Every document has been verified by independent analysts. We also have testimony from a credible source of Voker scientist named Lyra, who gave her life to bring this information to light." At the mention of Lyra, Crix's composure cracked. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. He stammered, attempting to deny the claims, but his words lacked conviction. The other delegates watched silently, their expressions ranging from anger to disbelief. When the session ended, Xylora called for a recess to allow the council to deliberate privately. Benjamin and Olivia returned to their quarters, exhausted, but hopeful. They had taken a significant risk by revealing the evidence, but they believed it was worth it. Now all they could do was wait. Hours later, the council reconvened. Xylora addressed the chamber, her tone grave yet firm. "After careful consideration, the Galaxy Council has reached a decision. Ambassador Crix has been stripped of his position and will face trial for his actions. Furthermore, the Voker Syndicate will be required to make reparations for their misconduct." Cheers erupted from some corners of the chamber, though Crix stormed out in rage, surrounded by his aides. As the applause died down, Xylora turned to Benjamin and Olivia. "On behalf of the council, I offer our sincerest apologies for the injustices you endured. Your courage and determination have restored faith in the possibility of true cooperation." Benjamin nodded, relief washing over him. "Thank you, Xylora. This is a step in the right direction, but there's still much work to be done." Outside the chamber, reporters swarmed the human delegation, eager for comments. Olivia spoke briefly, emphasizing the importance of transparency and accountability moving forward. Back inside, Benjamin allowed himself a rare smile. They had faced countless challenges, but for the first time in weeks, hope felt within reach. Document Part 2. The morning after Benjamin's abrupt exit from the council chamber. The atmosphere among the delegates was tense. Whispers filled the halls as representatives from various species discussed the events of the previous day. Some sympathized with humanity's frustrations, while others criticized Benjamin's actions as unprofessional. The Voker Syndicate, however, seemed particularly pleased with how things had unfolded. Crix, their ambassador, wore a smug expression as he moved through the crowd, exchanging quiet words with his allies. Inside the human delegation's quarters, Olivia sat at a table covered with notes and data pads. She sipped a cup of coffee, her mind racing. The weight of the situation pressed down on her shoulders. Benjamin paced back and forth, still visibly upset about Crix's insults. "We can't let him get away with treating us like that," Benjamin said, his voice sharp. "If we don't stand up for ourselves, they'll walk all over us." Olivia nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced that storming out of the negotiations had been the right move. "I understand why you did it," she said carefully, "but now we need to think about how to fix this. Walking out might have made us look weak or unstable to the other delegates." Benjamin stopped pacing and sighed. He knew Olivia was right. but admitting it wasn't easy. "So what do you suggest?" he asked, sitting down across from her. "We can't just roll over and agree to everything Crix wants. That's not an option." "No, we can't," Olivia replied. "But maybe we can turn this around. We need to show the Council and Crix that we're serious about finding solutions, even if we disagree with them. If we play our cards right, we might be able to win some support from the other species." As they spoke, an aide entered the room, carrying a stack of reports. "Sir, ma'am," the aide said, "there's been a development. Several smaller colonies are reporting increased pirate activity near their trade routes. They're asking for help from the Council." Olivia frowned. Pirate raids were nothing new, but the timing was suspicious. "Do we know who's behind these attacks?" she asked. The aide hesitated. "Not officially, but there are rumors. Some people think the Vokers might be involved." Ben's eyes narrowed. "Of course they are," he muttered. "Crix is trying to make us look bad by stirring up trouble elsewhere. If the Council sees chaos breaking out because of us, they'll blame humanity for walking away." Olivia leaned back in her chair, thinking hard. "That's exactly what he wants," she said. "But we can't let him control the narrative. Maybe we should reach out to those colonies directly. Show them that we're still committed to helping, even if we're not part of the Council's decisions right now." Benjamin nodded slowly. "It's worth a shot. At least it'll give us something positive to focus on while we figure out our next move here." Later that day, Olivia addressed a small group of reporters who had gathered outside the delegation's quarters. She spoke calmly and confidently, explaining humanity's position without resorting to accusations. "We believe in fairness and cooperation," she told them. "But when one side refuses to listen or respect the other, progress becomes impossible. That's why we walked away for now. We hope the Council will reconsider its approach and work toward real solutions instead of empty promises." Her words were met with mixed reactions. Some journalists praised her for taking a stand, while others questioned whether humanity was acting selfishly. Back inside, Benjamin watched the news coverage on a screen, shaking his head. "They're twisting everything," he said bitterly. "No matter what we say, they find a way to make it sound worse." Olivia placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry about what they're saying today. What matters is what happens tomorrow. If we stay focused and keep pushing for change, we'll win them over eventually." Meanwhile, tensions continued to rise within the council chamber. Xylora called for order as delegates argued over how to address the growing unrest among the colonies. Some blamed humanity for abandoning the talks, while others pointed fingers at the Vokers for failing to uphold their responsibilities. Predictably, denied any involvement in the pirate attacks. "These accusations are baseless," he declared. "The Voker Syndicate has always acted in good faith. It is humanity's absence that has created this instability." Xylora listened carefully, her expression unreadable. She knew Crix was hiding something, but proving it would be difficult. For now, she could only try to keep the peace talks from falling apart completely. After the session ended, she pulled Benjamin and Olivia aside for a private conversation. "I understand your frustrations," Xylora began, her voice soft but firm. "But leaving the negotiations was a risky move. Without humanity's participation, it will be much harder to achieve lasting peace." Benjamin crossed his arms. "With respect, Xylora, we didn't feel like we had a choice. Every time we tried to propose a compromise, Crix dismissed it outright. How are we supposed to negotiate under those conditions?" Xylora sighed. "Crix can be challenging," she admitted. "But isolating yourselves won't solve the problem. I urge you to reconsider your decision. Stay engaged, even if it's difficult. The galaxy needs your voice." Olivia exchanged a glance with Benjamin before responding. "We appreciate your advice," she said diplomatically. "But we also need to see tangible changes. If the Council truly values fairness, then it must hold everyone accountable, including the Vokers. Until that happens, It's hard for us to trust the process. Laura nodded thoughtfully. I will do my best to ensure that accountability, she promised, but I cannot guarantee results overnight. Patience is essential. After the meeting, Benjamin and Olivia returned to their quarters to regroup. They spent hours reviewing strategies and brainstormed ways to regain the council's trust. One idea stood out, proposing a joint investigation into the pirate attacks. By working with other species to uncover the truth, humanity could demonstrate its commitment to solving problems rather than creating them. The next day, Olivia presented the idea during a council session. We propose forming a task force to investigate the recent increase in piracy, she announced. This issue affects all of us, regardless of our differences. Working together to address it could strengthen the bonds between our species and pave the way for future cooperation. Her suggestion drew murmurs of approval from several delegates. Even Xylora seemed impressed. A commendable proposal, she said. Let us put it to a vote. Crix, however, was less enthusiastic. Another delay, he grumbled. How does chasing pirates bring us closer to resolving the real issues? Despite his objections, the motion passed. A team of investigators, including representatives from multiple species, was assembled to look into the matter. Benjamin and Olivia saw this as a small victory, a chance to rebuild bridges and prove humanity's intentions. But as the days went on, it became clear that Crix wasn't going to let them off the hook so easily. Behind closed doors, he worked tirelessly to undermine their efforts, spreading misinformation and sowing discord among the delegates. His tactics were subtle, yet effective, designed to erode trust in humanity's leadership. Back on Earth, news of the ongoing turmoil reached President Laura Bennett. She called an emergency meeting with her advisors, demanding updates on the situation. When Benjamin and Olivia appeared via hologram, she wasted no time getting to the point. What's going on out there? She asked sharply. Why are we hearing reports of escalating tensions instead of progress? Benjamin explained the challenges they faced, emphasizing the need for patience. Madam President, we're doing everything we can to navigate this complex environment, he said. But Crix is making it extremely difficult. He's using every opportunity to discredit us and destabilize the region. Laura's expression softened slightly. I understand that diplomacy isn't easy, she said, but we're counting on you to find a way forward. Humanity's reputation, possibly our survival, depends on it. As the meeting concluded, Olivia felt a renewed sense of determination. Despite the obstacles, she believed they could still turn things around. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that bigger challenges lay ahead. The Galaxy Council was a fragile construct, held together by threads of mutual interest and necessity, and if those threads snapped, the consequences would ripple across the stars. For now, though, all they could do was keep moving forward one step at a time. Document. Part 1. The Galaxy Council had chosen Luminaris as the meeting place for the most important peace talks in centuries. The planet was famous for its shimmering crystal landscapes that reflected light in dazzling colors. It was also known as neutral ground, a place where no species could claim dominance. Delegates from across the stars had traveled great distances to attend. They came with hopes of ending decades of tension and mistrust among civilizations scattered throughout the galaxy. Among the attendees were two humans, Benjamin Hayes and Olivia Carter. Benjamin was a tall man with piercing blue eyes and a calm demeanor. He had spent years negotiating treaties and smoothing over conflicts between Earth and other worlds. His partner, Olivia, was younger but equally skilled. She had a sharp mind and a knack for strategy. Her quick thinking had saved more than one negotiation from falling apart. Together, they represented humanity's interests on this critical stage. The council chamber was an enormous amphitheater filled with delegates from dozens of species. Each group had their own unique appearance, from the insect-like Zarno to the towering, four-armed Quarrens. At the center of it all stood Xylora, the leader of the Galaxy Council. She was an elegant figure with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors depending on the angle of the light. Her presence commanded respect, even from those who disagreed with her decisions. Xylora opened the session with a speech about unity and cooperation. She spoke of how the galaxy had suffered too long under the weight of war and suspicion. Her voice echoed through the chamber, carrying both hope and urgency. "Today," she said, "we have the chance to change our future. Let us work together to build a world where every species can thrive." Her words were met with polite applause, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. Everyone knew these talks would not be easy. The issues dividing them were deep and complex. Resources, territory, and past grievances all loomed large. As the first order of business, the council turned its attention to trade agreements, a topic that had caused endless disputes over the years. Benjamin stepped forward to speak on behalf of humanity. He began by outlining Earth's contributions to interstellar trade. Humans had shared technology, medicine, and raw materials with many neighboring species. In return, they expected fair treatment and equitable partnerships. However, Benjamin quickly pointed out that this wasn't always the case. Some species, particularly the Volker Syndicate, had taken far more than they gave. Their actions had left Earth struggling to meet its own needs while still trying to fulfill its obligations to allies. Crix, the ambassador for the Volker Syndicate, listened with a scowl. He was a massive alien with dark, armored skin and glowing red eyes. When Benjamin finished speaking, Crix rose to his feet. His voice boomed through the chamber as he accused humanity of greed and selfishness. "You claim to seek fairness," he said, "but your demands reveal your true nature. You hoard resources and refuse to share what you do not need." Olivia stepped in to counter Crix's accusations. She reminded the council that Earth's resources were finite and that humanity had already stretched itself thin helping others. "We are willing to contribute," she said firmly, "but we cannot continue giving at the expense of our own survival." Her words earned nods of agreement from some delegates, but others remained skeptical. As the debate continued, cracks began to form in the fragile atmosphere of cooperation. One delegate after another weighed in, each side defending its position with growing intensity. Benjamin tried to keep the discussion focused on finding solutions, but it was clear that emotions were running high. At one point, Crix dismissed Benjamin's suggestion for a compromise as childish and unworthy of consideration. The insult struck a nerve. Benjamin felt his patience slipping away. He clenched his fists and took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. But when Crix smirked and leaned back in his seat, clearly enjoying the discomfort he had caused, something inside Benjamin snapped. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving Olivia alone to handle the situation. Back at the human delegation's quarters, Benjamin paced back and forth, muttering to himself. His advisors watched nervously as he vented his frustration. "How can we negotiate with someone like that?" he demanded. "Crix has no interest in fairness or cooperation. All he cares about is power." Olivia arrived shortly afterward, her expression grim. She had done her best to salvage the situation, but the damage was done. Word of Benjamin's dramatic exit had spread quickly, and the other delegates were already gossiping about humanity's behavior. "This isn't good," Olivia admitted. "If we don't find a way to repair our image, we'll lose whatever leverage we have left." Later that evening, reporters gathered outside the council building, eager for comments from the human delegation. Cameras flashed as Benjamin and Olivia emerged, surrounded by security personnel. Questions flew at them from all directions. "Why did you leave the negotiations?" one reporter asked. "Is humanity planning to abandon the talks altogether?" another pressed. Neither Benjamin nor Olivia offered a direct answer. Instead, They exchanged a glance before heading into a waiting vehicle. Inside, they sat in silence, both lost in thought. The stakes were higher than ever, and the pressure was mounting. Humanity's future depended on their ability to navigate this delicate situation. But as the car sped away, neither of them could shake the feeling that they were running out of time, far above the planet. Aboard a sleek spaceship orbiting Luminaris, Crix watched footage of Benjamin's departure with a satisfied grin. "Let them squirm," he muttered to his assistant. "They'll come crawling back soon enough." Little did he know, his arrogance would prove to be a costly mistake, not just for him, but for the entire galaxy. For now, though, the Galaxy Council faced an uncertain path ahead. The peace talks had barely begun, yet already they teetered on the brink of collapse. And as the delegates prepared for another day of negotiations, one thing was clear: the choices made in the coming days would shape the destiny of countless worlds, for better or for worse.